It's a curious performance we're caught in. We move through life trying to mend ourselves as though we were somehow defective, endlessly polishing the face we present to others. Yet if you study the remarkable people of history, the ones who truly shifted the course of things, you'll notice something odd. Every one of them carried fractures. Each was wounded in some way, and it wasn't despite those fractures that they became extraordinary. It was because of them. This defies everything we've been trained to believe, doesn't it? We're instructed to conceal the injuries, to hide the marks, to maintain the illusion of composure. But imagine for a moment that your brokenness, the very thing you wish to erase, is exactly what creation requires of you. Suppose the imperfection in your nature isn't a defect, but a doorway. Let's make something clear from the beginning. When I say broken, I don't mean reckless people or those who weaponize pain as justification. I'm speaking of those who've walked to the border of despair, stared into the shadows of their own mind, and returned trembling but wiser. I mean the ones who know, truly know, that they are not whole on their own, that life cannot be carried solo. These are the chosen ones, not because they are frail, but because they are conscious. The universe has no role for the man who believes he made himself, the one puffed up with pride in his self-creation, convinced that his success is purely his own. Such a man is a sealed vessel. There's no room for something greater to move through him because he's already overflowing with himself. But the fractured soul, the one marked by struggle, has openings, and through those openings, light enters. Consider water for a moment. A perfectly shut container cannot receive it, but a crack, however small, invites it in. It trickles, it spreads, it fills. This is the nature of grace. This is how the essence of being flows. It cannot inhabit what is closed. Brokenness makes space. Now recognize something vital. To be cracked is not to be ruined. A vessel with a line can still carry what it was meant to. A pane with a flaw can still scatter sunlight into beauty. Sometimes that flaw refracts the most brilliant colors when light strikes it at the right angle. Your damage works the same way. It doesn't strip you of purpose, it prepares you for it. Look at the great seekers and prophets of time. Moses, they say, stammered. His speech faltered. And yet he became the mouthpiece of the divine. How ironic is that? The universe selected a man with broken words to deliver a message meant for eternity. Why? Because he knew his limits. He knew his dependence. And that awareness made him the ideal conduit. Or take David, a forgotten shepherd boy dismissed by his own family. Too young, too small, too ordinary. Yet it was precisely that David, these so-called damaged goods in the eyes of the world, became the very symbol of kingship. Because David never lost sight of his origins. He remembered his smallness, even beneath the weight of a crown. He never forgot that he was once just a simple herdsman, chosen and shaped by something far greater than himself. Once you start noticing, this pattern appears everywhere. Paul, the towering apostle, was once a persecutor. He hunted and executed those whose truth he would later defend with his life. Imagine the torment of that awareness. To live every day knowing you once destroyed the same people you now serve. Yet it was this guilt, this raw understanding of his own darkness, that gave his message its power. He knew redemption didn't come from moral perfection, but from a force beyond his control. That's the paradox of the broken. They lose the illusion of mastery. They see clearly that they were never truly steering the wheel. The average person walks through existence convinced that discipline, planning, and virtue will guarantee a smooth road. But the one who's been cracked open knows better. They've witnessed how quickly certainty dissolves. They've felt stability collapse under them. And in that helpless descent, they discover something profound, the unseen arms that hold them. This is why life favors the damage, because they've surrendered the need to command it. They've learned the art of yielding. They no longer fight the current, they trust it. Think of floating on water. When you stiffen, when you try to manage every gesture, you sink. But when you soften, when you trust the water, it supports you effortlessly. Existence is no different. The wounded soul has mastered the float. Now let me explain what damage really means. It isn't the incident itself, the betrayal, the addiction, the failure, or the grief. Those are merely catalysts. The true break happens inside, when you finally acknowledge that those experiences changed you forever, that the person before them no longer exists. That honest admission, that surrender to transformation, that's where the crack forms. And through it, the light begins to pour. Most people, after suffering, waste their strength trying to rewind the story. They long to return to a version of themselves that no longer fits. But the awakened one knows there's no return. The former self has dissolved. And in that sacred emptiness, something unimagined begins to grow. Something that could never have emerged before. That's not recovery, it's rebirth. And rebirth is what the universe truly seeks. Here's the strange beauty of it all. Those who've never been shattered often stumble hardest when life demands flexibility. They're rigid, polished, and fragile. When chaos strikes, they break because they never learned to bend. But those who've already cracked, who've already been twisted and tested, possess a strange resilience. They learn to move with life's rhythm instead of resisting its motion. They're like ancient trees that have survived countless storms, enduring not through stiffness, but through their graceful ability to bend. Let me share what unfolds once you begin to embrace your brokenness. You become humble. You no longer imagine yourself as the center of existence. You're not the author of the story or the one directing it. You're a single thread in a vast tapestry. And strangely, that realization doesn't diminish you. It liberates you. Because when you see that control was never yours, you can finally rest. You stop wasting energy trying to steer every moment or manipulate every result. You show up, you act, and you let life handle its own choreography. This is what the sages of old China called Wu Wei, effortless doing. It doesn't mean inaction, it means flow. It means motion without struggle, purpose without tension, and you only arrive there after life has taught you humility through limits. The proud one, the person convinced of their completeness, lives in constant combat. They battle events, people, fate itself. They resist everything that doesn't obey them. But resistance drains the soul. The scarred individual, on the other hand, has discovered that fighting life is a losing war. Not in despair, but in wisdom. They've learned to cooperate with what is, not demand what isn't. There's another quiet gift hidden in damage: compassion. Not the shallow version that pities others from above, but the deep recognition that we are all fragments of the same struggle. You begin to see your own reflection in the pain of others. You understand what it means to stumble, to break, to lose your strength. You know the ache of needing someone's hand, and that knowing softens you. It gives you kindness the untouched heart can't fathom. Those who have never truly suffered often become judges. They ask, why can't people just push through? Why can't they simply be stronger? But those who've known despair understand the truth, that sometimes more effort only deepens the wound. Sometimes healing begins when you stop forcing, when you release control and let yourself be carried. That realization, born from lived pain, allows the broken to guide others through darkness in ways the untested never can. Yet it's vital to remember what damage is not. It's not a shield for apathy, not permission to stagnate or harm. If your suffering has turned you cynical, spiteful, or cruel, then the lesson has been lost. You've used your pain as poison instead of medicine. The difference between those who life can work through and those it cannot lies right here. One sees their hurt as punishment, whispering, "Why me? This isn't fair." The other asks, "What is this here to reveal? How is it shaping my heart? What new depth of humanity is it asking of me?" Both have been wounded, but only one learns the art of wisdom. There's an old tale I cherish about a man who visits a wise teacher. He says, "Master, my life is a mess. I'm filled with worry. I'm weighed down by sadness. I battle addictions. I've failed in everything I've ever done. How can I possibly be of any value?" And the teacher smiles and replies, "You've just named your qualifications." The man blinks in confusion. So the teacher explains, "Your anxiety has shown you that nothing in life is certain. Your sorrow has revealed that joy can't be manufactured. Your addictions have humbled you into seeking help. Your failures have taught you surrender. These aren't defects, they're credentials. This right here is what I mean when I say that existence selects the wounded. It isn't that life goes looking for the broken and says, I'll use them. It's that brokenness itself creates the doorway through which greater forces can enter. Think of a seed. It must rupture before anything alive can emerge. A seed that stays perfect and sealed remains nothing more than a seed forever. What grows out of that fracture isn't the old self repaired. It's a new being entirely, something that was always within you, but trapped by the hardness of your shell. And now, with the shell split open, that hidden life can finally breathe. Here's what I've seen. The people who truly transform the world are never those who had smooth roads. They are the ones who stumbled, who failed spectacularly, who kept standing up until the number of falls no longer mattered. Because hardship teaches what comfort never could. It teaches endurance. It shows you that you can survive the unthinkable. It proves that something deeper than circumstance lives within you, something that refuses to die. And once that lesson takes root, once it settles not just in your mind but in your bones, you stop living in fear. Not because fear disappears, but because you see it for what it is, a passing visitor. You understand that even if the worst arrives, you'll find your way through it, because you already have. That's the hidden strength of the scarred. They become unafraid of life itself. They dare. They speak. They love fully because they've learned that restraint offers no protection. Think about it. Who would you rather follow? Someone who's never stumbled, who's succeeded at everything, who's never been crushed by loss, or someone who's crawled back from the abyss, who's tasted despair and still chosen to rise? The first can recite the mechanics of success, but the second carries the essence of life. That's why existence works through the broken. They carry the kind of understanding comfort can never produce. They've been tempered by fire. All illusions burned away until only what's genuine remains. And that authenticity is precisely what the world needs. Not flawless figures, but human ones. Here's the most astonishing part. When you embrace your cracks, when you stop patching, stop concealing, stop apologizing for them, something extraordinary occurs. Others begin to see themselves in you. Your honesty becomes a mirror. Your wounds become bridges. Because everyone carries scars. Everyone hides something aching beneath the surface. And when you dare to show yours, you invite others out of hiding too. That's how healing begins, not through masks, but through truth. Not by pretending to be unbroken, but by standing there, visible, with your scars uncovered. To be vulnerable is to open the door for others to step through and finally breathe again. That openness gives others permission to open too. And in that shared vulnerability, something remarkable unfolds. Connection. Genuine, soul-deep human connection. Life doesn't choose the wounded in spite of their scars. It works through them because of them. Because brokenness births humility. Humility gives rise to openness. Openness makes room. And within that space, something vast can move. Call it God, call it consciousness, call it the current of existence itself. Whatever name you give it, it needs emptiness to flow, and brokenness creates that emptiness. So if you're sitting there whispering, I'm too shattered, too flawed, too far gone to matter, let me remind you, you are exactly the one life is searching for. Your cracks are not defects, they are design. Your wounds are not reasons for disqualification, they are the evidence of experience. Every scar you hide is a testament saying, I've been here, I've endured, I've learned, I'm still standing. The world doesn't hunger for perfect beings, it aches for authentic ones. It doesn't need polished people holding themselves together. It needs those willing to fall apart and be reshaped by grace. It doesn't crave actors performing strength. It seeks those who recognize their limits and allow something greater to move through them. That's the paradox at the heart of it all. Strength reveals itself through weakness, not beyond it, but inside it, through it, because of it. The very flaw you think makes you unworthy is your qualification. The wound you conceal is the window through which illumination pours. The pain you hide is the passageway where mercy flows. So stop the endless fixing. Stop constructing the illusion of perfection. Stop pretending to be complete. Instead, speak truthfully about your scars. Admit your fractures. Confess your need for help. And in that raw honesty, something extraordinary happens. You realize you were never isolated. You were never unchosen. The very thing you thought excluded you is what makes you essential. The finest vessels have been broken and mended. They understand they are not the contents, they are carriers. And because of their cracks, light is able to pass through. That light, that force, that divinity gleams all the brighter because of every fracture. So allow yourself to be broken, to be open, to be unfinished. And in that openness, let yourself be used for what you were born to do, not to embody perfection, but to embody truth. Not to hold every answer, but to stand honestly in the mystery. Not to be the light, but to let the light find its way through you. Because your brokenness, your fierce, fragile, irreplaceable brokenness, is not what makes you unworthy. It's what makes you luminous.